Hey folks, Mike Iaconelli for Bass Angler Magazine. I want to talk to you about freaky fall fishing patterns, you know. And the fall is a neat time of the year. The fall, the fish are really feeding, especially in the early fall period. The fish are up there eating bait. They know what's coming. Winter's coming. A lot of times your best fishing days could be had in the fall. And when those fish are eating and the fishing's easy, you know, a spinner bait or a jerk bait is what I throw. It looks like the bait. You can cover a lot of water, trigger reaction bait. But you know what happens in the fall is a lot of time the fishing gets tough. And there's two freaky scenarios that I use to catch those fish when it gets tough in the fall. And the first one is to downsize and really try to match the size of the bait. If you think about the forage you're feeding on in the fall, a lot of it is what I call young of the year forage. It's the shad, the alewives, the herring, the minnows that have spawned that year or the year before. And we're talking about shad that are from an inch to maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches at the max. And because of that, you've really got to downsize. You've got to go from your normal size baits to something really small. And one of my favorites is an off-the-wall style of shad wrap. Everybody knows about the Rapala shad wrap, the 6, the 7, the 8, the long build versions. But this is the shallow shad wrap. And if you look at it, it's got a very small body, and it's got what I call is a shovel bill. And the bill almost looks like a little shovel. And I'll take this bait and I'm going to make a couple freaky modifications to this to really mimic that smaller forage in the fall. And the first thing I'm going to do with this bait when I take it out of the pack is I'm going to add a snap or a split ring to the front of that bait. That's going to give that bait a little extra movement when I'm twitching it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change or replace the hooks. And the first thing I want to do is I want to take that belly hook off and I'm going to put a number 4 VMC short shank on the belly of that hook. I'm going to take that tail hook off and I'm going to put a number 5 short shank VMC treble hook on the back. And I'm upsizing the hooks on that bait. The addition of the split ring and the bigger hooks on the belly and the tail on light lines, 6 to 10 pound fluorocarbon, are going to cause this bait to almost suspend, to be a very neutral buoyancy bait. Then all I'm going to do is cast this bait on a spinning rod past where the fish are feeding. The balls of bait, the dark spot, the lone stick, and I'm going to twitch it and put long pauses into it. In the fall, when the fish get so keyed in on that small forage, that little shallow shad wrap is the key. But then one other thing could happen in the fall, and that's when they're feeding on forage and there's so much of the forage that they become too keyed in on that bait. An example would be in the back of a pocket, thousands of shad, and they're all silver and they're all the same size. The bass becomes psycho. All they want to eat is the stuff that they see, and trying to imitate it doesn't work. In those situations, I go in the opposite direction and I go to what I call a shock color. And I will do it in a spinner bait, I'll do it in a soft jerk bait, a regular jerk bait, and especially a crankbait. And I'll go to a color that's totally off the wall and doesn't match the forage that they're feeding in on. This is one of the new Ike's Custom Ink colors, and it's a color called Girlfriend. And if you look at it, hot pink, yellow, a little bit of orange, it looks nothing like the forage they're feeding in on, but it stands out from the crowd. When there's thousands of bait and it all is the same size and the same color, and all of a sudden they see something that's different, it becomes a focal point for feeding. It's a shock color. Mike Iaconelli here to tell you that in the fall, when they're biting, throw your normal stuff. But when fishing gets tough and you need to throw something freaky, go real small or natural, or go real bright or loud, and you're going to catch those finicky fall fish. Mike Iaconelli for Bass Angler Magazine.